So
Mm-hmm. I
I will
appreciate
definitely hold you
I
accountable.
appreciate pretty Libra energy.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was well, not everybody. The folks who do listen and be like, you have a lot of Tauruses on the show. Like I always have a bunch of Tauruses on the show. Don't know what that is. They just feel safe to me. But you're a Libra,
Mm-hmm.
and Libras are, ruled by like beauty and pleasure.
And so is Taurus.
Exactly. We're the only two signs. So you guys are
Mm-hmm.
with the shits as far as luxury as much as I am.
Yes.
Although I do think our honorary play cousin is Leo.
Of course.
Oh my God,
Of course.
opulence, honey, the opulence.
Yeah, I'm Leo midheaven, so I get it.
I have Leo in my chart as well. It's so funny because a lot of times I'm like, I should really say this is an astrology slash entertainment because every single episode I call out somebody's sign.
Mm-hmm.
I call out how we know each other. I just realized that every single guest I've had is somebody I've hung out with.
Yeah, and that's how it should be.
I've never had a guest who was just like, I guess you're a cloud chase. Let me have you on my show for some.
No,
It's always like somebody that I like, somebody that I enjoy. Oh, wait a minute. My headset. Can you hear me in the headset?
I can.
Harrison, I can't hear my headset anymore. It just completely died on me.
Shit. I like this mic though.
I know,
It sounds
right? It's
good.
a little phallic, so I'll be trying not to have it too close. But hello, mic check 1 2.
I don't mind phallic.
I don't mind phallic. I mean,
I like
look
phallic.
at look at both of us doing. I
I
don't
don't.
mind phallic.
It's all in my
If
face,
I
and I'm
was
like,
if I was being messy, I would make that the the title of the show. Okay, now I can hear everything's
hey,
perfectly.
it's on
I don't
brand.
mind phallic either. I decided that your episode's going to be called Black Boy Joy
Okay,
because there's something joyous about you that I
I
really
love that.
enjoy. For those of you who are listening, our guest today is Donnie Hue. Pew
What's
pew
up,
pew
y'all?
pew,
Pew
and he is a
pew.
beautiful man. If you are watching on YouTube or on Patreon, Donnie, whenever I think of you, I think of the color yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like in the car coming over here. I was like, I hope he's wearing yellow.
Oh, of course.
And you're wearing yellow. Is that your
I
favorite
know.
color?
It is my favorite color. Goldenrod is my favorite color, like a mustard yellow, but like
That's
a
what
very
she
bright
said.
one.
Not goldenrod.
I know.
I was gonna
It's
say
super good.
marigold. I thought I was doing something. You said goldenrod. You outdid me.
Yeah.
Do you know I always look for an excuse to say the word chartreuse?
Are you serious?
Whenever I see chartreuse, I'm like, that's chartreuse because nobody ever uses that word. It's
I
such a great
know.
word.
When I hear it, I'm like, how do you spell it?
CHAUTRESE, I think, or
Don't even
EUSE,
guess.
something in that category. But chartreuse is a great color. And for those who are wondering what chartreuse is, it's just like lime green mixed with
Mm.
a little bit of yellow. The reason why I really wanted you on the show is because there's something about you, like you're always the pleasant surprise when I go out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll go somewhere and like be a couple drinks in, or just my edible would have just hit, and then I'll look over. I'm like, oh, it's Donnie. I yell, oh, it's Donnie.
You really do. And now you popping up like blue.
You really do like the Where's Waldo of
Mm-hmm.
like pleasant juju.
Like a little Jiminy
Uh,
Cricket.
Exactly. I'm like, you know what? I need to be intentional with Donnie because I
Yeah.
can't have this man just keep on because you're always like a pleasant surprise.
Thank you.
And I used to always pray to God, like, please send me pleasant surprises because I get blindsided. Well, past tense. I used to get blindsided a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so the word surprise always carried pain for me. Like it felt like a bad surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So I started praying for pleasant surprises, and you're like the physical embodiment
Thank
of like a
you.
pleasant surprise.
I appreciate
The last place you surprised me was Pride.
it. It was Pride.
I First of all, I was in so much pain. Nobody told me we were going to Pride. Jeff said to me, do you want to go see Sid tonight?
Uh-huh.
The singer Sid.
Like a concert.
So I'm thinking I'm going to a concert.
Mm-hmm.
So I show up in a dress and ballet flats, like, oh, I don't feel like wearing heels because I'm flat footed. And we end up walking 4 miles.
Yeah. That would have threw me off. After I seen you, I walked around with that tote bag for the rest of the
Oh
like I
my
was looking
God.
for you.
I was shocked. Okay, so I saw Donnie and I was in so much pain. I said, Donnie, I just need a tote bag to throw my stuff in. Because when you're in pain, you want as little around you as possible.
Yep.
You left to go get the tote bag. We were like near the VIP entrance.
Mm-hmm.
And like when Sid's show was over and they started migrating away, I was like, oh no, where's Donnie? Meanwhile, you're like, I have your tote bag. Where are you?
Yeah, it was
You're
lines
so
and all
sweet.
kinds of stuff, and I thought they were giving them away, but it was more so like the human rights campaign, and
Oh, so you
so
had to listen to a speech.
yeah, it was like a whole thing, but it was like
Yeah.
it was worth it. I mean, I get it when you have like a bunch of stuff and you don't want to carry something. So I was like, let me go
Yeah,
check
it was
it
very sweet of you. I was like, this is a sweet human being. By the time I finally thought that we were in the vicinity of you, I texted you like, oh girl, I'm at home.
out. Mm-hmm. I was like, you know what? It's time to go. It's getting packed, and like the people were out. Like it was beautiful.
You got there early
I
though.
did.
Cause we got there like daytime and you had already been there for like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a
And I
pride
went.
person?
No, not really. I just love socializing. So the energy of
Oh.
Pride is great. I mean, I'm not the type that like needs all of the festivities of Pride.
Oomph,
Like
oomph,
the yeah,
oomph,
that
oomph, oomph.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like I like to be around the people, and it's the opportunity for me to see everybody that I love. So when I'm out there, I'm just like, all
Oh.
right, cool. Plus, I was working, and
Okay, that makes sense as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
You know what's so interesting is that like when I think about this month, this is June and June is Pride month. You are the last Pride month guest. And without even thinking about it, all the guests on this roster for this month have been queer.
that's amazing.
And so some of them I'm not sure everybody knew Rosa Acosta was queer, but if you hear the episode with her, sis is a homo. Yeah, sis is queer.
That's
And it
cool.
is so funny because I never think of my friends as their orientation
Mhm,
or as their job.
mhm,
And so sometimes it's interesting watching other people take them in, like, oh, your friend is a big deal because they do X, Y, and Z, or your friend
mm.
is gay, your friend is what. I don't think of my friends as anything but like energy
I
fields.
love that. Same.
It gets me in trouble though sometimes because sometimes you have to recognize, hey, this person is X, Y, and Z, so you have to protect. So I've learned to
Mm.
protect them based on the label, even though I don't internalize the label. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And see, when I see people, I don't think about what they do or
Me
like
either.
their like occupation. It's like, how do I feel when I'm around you? Do I feel like do I feel great? Do
Amen.
I feel like this is gonna be like, okay, I can't do hang out with this person for X amount of hours? Because there are times where I've hung out with people for like 8 to 9 hours just
Uh-huh.
at a table talking, like
Amen.
catching up.
This is
But
why I love Libras. The joke is always with my friends. If you find me in the corner talking to somebody for too long, it's either a Libra or a Gemini. I
mm-hmm.
don't know what it is about y'all.
Geminis talk a lot, and so do
Yes, they and
Libras.
so do Libras. And it's so funny. I was engaged to a Libra,
Wow.
and a Leo. That was interesting. A lot of my closest friends are Libras and Leos
Mhm.
and Geminis. The Leos just like what the thing about Leos is. I naturally gravitate to the Libras and the Geminis, but the Leos see that I'm big and boisterous but safe
Yes.
because Leos low key need to feel safe.
Yeah. Because
And,
they
oh,
attract a lot.
they attract a lot of mess. You finished the sentence early. That's very sweet of you. They attract a lot of mess. You know what's so interesting about you is you are a very attractive, physically fit man.
Thank you.
I love how you're saying thank you for the yes, it's the obvious. I can see you.
Thank
And
you.
also like if you look at your Instagram, the aesthetic of your Instagram is gorgeous.
I appreciate
You are
that.
like a human mood board, honey.
I
You
appreciate
a whole
this.
influencer in these streets, honey.
Listen, and
A
it's
whole
like,
influencer.
thank you.
I love how you're blushing. Donnie is blushing.
I am blushing.
But here's the thing though, when we see somebody who looks like you, we would think that you want to be seen at all times.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were at Jeff's Taco Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
you surprised me because we were talking about relationships and you said that you were someone who does not chase relationships.
Right.
A Libra who doesn't chase relation I started buffering. I was like, "What? What are
Yeah.
you saying?" Can you explain to me how you found the sweetness of your solitude, which by the way, dulce far niente, that's the Latin term for sweetness of doing nothing. You have the
Mm-hmm.
sweetness of solitude.
Mm-hmm.
As a Libra, for those who are into astrology, you understand why this is atypical. Libras usually need to be codependent or paired up or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. How did you get there? How did you get to a place where you didn't always need people around?
Because I was just on this ascension. Like I was growing and learning more about myself
Mm-hmm.
and exploring what it is that I like. And the less I had people around, the less conflict there was, or the
Ooh.
less discrepancy there was with what I was like into doing. Like I wanted to spend my time reading or
Aw.
soaking up sun at the park or like walking and just like meditating, like grounding and earthing and doing like nature filled stuff or working out, like focusing on myself so that I can like glow from the inside out.
And you do glow.
Thank
Which is why I'm
you.
like, oh my God,
Hmm. And every time I see you, I feel the same way. I'm like, okay, Blue's here. Like
that
this is
makes
gonna be
me
a
so
good
happy.
time. Cause yeah, ever since meeting you, it's always been great.
But you don't ever get, and this is the question that most people would ask, because I'm an only child, so I get it. Like, I
Hmm.
completely understand what you're saying, but there's somebody out there who's codependent who's like, but don't you get lonely? What would you say to them about finding the sweetness of your solitude?
I love myself. Like I
Oh,
love being alone. Like there was no even when people would be like, okay, there's a difference between loneliness and being alone. Like I
big.
always knew that I was just being alone because I spent so much time. And a lot that has to do with that is the fact that I'm Scorpio rising. So there's all
Oh,
this
yeah, Scorpios don't,
absorbing.
Scorpios want all of us to leave them alone. Scorpios and
Yeah.
Aquarius.
And every time I go out, it's like it's always serendipity and I end up at the right place,
The right
interacting with the
time.
right people, and it's just always beautiful and it's in doses. And then I will have beautiful encounters where like something fuels the that encounter or that union is like something that we both get a benefit from.
Right.
And I'm really good at absorbing what it is and transmuting it into something else that maybe that person might have needed in that moment. But I go out alone. Every time you see me, I'm by myself.
I was about to mention that, like, a Libra who doesn't mind being alone and who also goes out. I'm like, Donnie,
Mm-hmm.
look at you out here being a whole unicorn dipped in yellow.
Yeah. And but I'm
Goldenrod, my bad. He
like,
said goldenrod,
goldenrod.
honey. It's not yellow, honey. It's goldenrod, okay?
I could attribute a lot of this to my chart though, for real, because the balance, like my sun is Libra, but my moon is Aries, and so I'm also like
Oh, yeah.
very, and I don't have a problem with the level of self absorbedness that I have.
For those of you
Is
who
that a
don't know
word?
anything about astrology, your moon sign is your internal dialogue, and
Mm-hmm.
Aries is the baby of the zodiac. So you know how
Mm-hmm.
babies are very purely self-absorbed. So
Mm-hmm.
his internal dialogue is very purely self-absorbed, and it's not. It's like I always call Aries pure ego,
Mm-hmm.
because babies have no malicious intent.
None.
Their job is to be fed and to be held and to find ways to laugh.
Yeah.
And so if you have Aries in your chart, like in a predominant spot, you just very naturally know how to take care of yourself the same way a child makes sure it always gets fed.
Very childlike, and my inner child is like really potent in my being. And I think the balance with the Libra, it's like whenever I am around people, it's always like you said, it's harmonious and like.
It really is, and you know when to retreat.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, though, and this is the part that's interesting to me, is that can be addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Finding, like, what is that Worcestershire quote? I will not have you unless you are better than the sweetness of my solitude, or whatever, like she
Exactly.
said. Like, that can be addictive, especially after the panoramic and
Mm-hmm.
everybody done social distance. How do you date when you're so like, actualized and don't
Yeah.
actually need anybody? Like,
Yeah.
how does that translate for dating? Or are you at this part now where you're just like, look, I'm asexual, leave me alone?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm asexual. I mean, I have
And we
moments
haven't
of
had a
fasting.
sexual guest, by the way, so we're not kikiing. That's actually an option. But go
Yeah.
ahead.
I'm like, I take moments of fasting whenever I'm doing something creative, so I can like focus. Like right now, with my film coming out, I've like been really locked in, so I
We're
haven't
gonna talk
been
about that. I'm so
having sex.
excited.
But when it comes to dating or like meeting people, I honestly think that like it's more so encounter based for me. Like I don't need
Oh.
to hold on to it. I've had one relationship in my whole life, and I had three significant people who have taught me something, or like I've taken something from
And you
as
get to
far as
call those
romance.
relationships as well. You can say you've had one
Yeah.
committed relationship and
Yeah.
3 non-committed relationships. 'Cause I think all relationships matter.
Yes.
Because a lot of times my biggest heartaches were people who didn't technically claim me.
And those were
And I'll be damned if I don't claim that shit.
yeah. And I had to recognize that as something that I was forcing that. So the lesser version of myself, when I
Uh-huh.
was really needing that's when the Libra was like very.
Codependent.
Yes, it was like, oh, you feel like my person, like let's belong to each other. And like I wanted
Mm.
to keep people who were just there to teach me something and were supposed to learn
Mm.
something from me, which it was a mutual benefit. And then I ended up walking away from it hurt first, and then getting myself together and flourishing, and then those people would like resurface and try to figure out what happened. And it was like, I let you know that you did me wrong. I was very good at communicating
Like,
that.
I was clear. My
Mm-hmm.
clarity's not the issue here.
Yeah.
That makes me think about heartache, and I realize that I'm in this space currently because I used to. We're not gonna get into it, but I used to have intimacy issues, and so
Mm-hmm.
the way that intimacy issues tend to manifest in someone who seems very gregarious, like I do, is that I'll subconsciously pick people who are unavailable, so I can have all the mechanics of wanting them, while deep down knowing that I'll never have to like have the responsibility of having them.
Yeah.
And then it got flipped on me because you know how karma works.
Yeah.
Then I started attracting, when I got healed, then I started attracting like shades of my former self. I was like, oh shit, is that what I was doing? This is horrible. And so I would meet folks who wanted the idea of me, but didn't want the work of actually dealing with me as a human being,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually how the show came about. I was like, I feel like every problem I've ever had came down to somebody being dehumanized.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it's very interesting hearing you talk, because when I talk like that on first dates, I've had people tell me to my face, you're too deep to date,
Mm.
which is ridiculous because I am not
Mm-hmm.
the sea, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm a person. I'm not gonna say I'm regular because that'd be a lie, but I'm a
You ain't
person, right?
regular.
And so my thing is like, do you even want to date at this point? Like, you're open to it, or are you at this thing of like, I just want to have a life full of encounters, but be onto myself?
Well, I always feel it. Like even with the people I was telling you about just a second ago, like those in meeting them
Mm-hmm.
clicked in my mind like this is something to remember. This is a person that's gonna show up again.
Have an impact.
Having it's like a feeling, like I know it, and when I don't have that feeling, it's rare that I move. But I was explaining to a friend of mine that I had to stop not giving chances because
Mm-hmm.
before there was a time where I gave chances too much, and it was just like, okay, what am I doing? Like I should be focused. But then there was a time where I didn't give chances at all because I didn't feel that feeling of this person is a significant person in
Energy
my
wise, those
life.
are the same thing. You know, extremes are mirrors. So
Mm-hmm.
giving too many chances and not giving enough are the same problem because the only answer is balance.
Yeah.
You went from one side of the field all the way
Yeah,
to
to
the
the
other side.
other
You
until I
skipped all the
found
middle.
balance. Until I found balance, and it's crazy because I feel like I have balance now, and it has led me to beautiful spaces and
Hmm.
opportunities that I didn't think were there. And just the conversation happening, I told myself like I won't limit myself to not having an encounter with someone
Hmm.
because I don't feel that thing like they're gonna be in my space forever. It's
Yeah.
like maybe I just there we could spend 2 hours together and there's a sentence that I need that might shift the trajectory of my life. And I'm
So you've
okay with
surrendered.
that. Yeah.
You've completely surrendered. And it's so funny because I always, like we started earlier saying that you are always a pleasant surprise when I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're being open to having your own pleasant surprises show up. You
Yeah.
see how full circle that is?
Yeah.
That thing you do for me when I'm like, oh, there goes Donnie.
Yes.
You're letting it happen with people in your life too. The reason why I wanted to talk about this first is because there's something about your spirit that I feel like the audience would understand from us having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that as a creative, anything you write, anything you create, anything you're a part of,
Mm-hmm.
your real life bleeds into it.
Absolutely.
I always say all the time when you're a writer or a content creator or a podcaster, your whole life is content.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my heart broken a couple times. We're like, oh, this is gonna be great content.
Yeah.
Just gonna go cry in the shower real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I
write this
call it
down.
collecting data.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, the data was very valuable.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to go, cry and walk into the river, but the data was very valuable.
Yeah.
So you have I thought it was a play, but
Mm-hmm.
earlier you corrected me. You said it's a feature film.
Yes.
By the time this episode comes out, I think it's coming out the Friday before we go. See,
Oh,
I'm
that'll
so
be
excited.
beautiful. That'll be beautiful.
So I just bought the 2 tickets for me and Jeff.
Thank you.
And I made sure to buy them. Support your friends, guys. If your
Thank
friends are
you.
doing something, pull out your wallet, okay?
Thank you.
And so, like, can you tell us about it? Because I feel like the audience will be very intrigued by what you're working on.
Yes. So Roux Blues is a film that started out as a one man show. So I started this I got asked to do a talent show. And
Oh,
and at this time I was dead broke. I didn't have much. I
welcome
was
to
sitting
Los
at
Angeles,
Hilltop,
y'all.
right? Sitting there like in the space of trying to figure out what was my next step because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know. I wasn't inspired. I was going seeking inspiration. And Christopher Webb, he works at the Ahmad Institute. He reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, we're having this talent showcase," and I thought he wanted me to vend like bow tie. I used to make bow ties, and so I thought he wanted me to sell stuff.
I love a good hustler. I used to
Yeah,
make both
I
times.
look. I used to be out here doing all the things, but then he was like, "No, I want you to come perform." And at that time, I knew I had a story. I just didn't have a stage, and so
Mm.
I was like, all right, well, if I'm gonna do this, I have to create something. I don't want to memorize someone else's monologue or give a poem. No, I'm gonna do it. I said, can I do a skit? And so I ended up taking a piece of my journey and like writing about it. And what had happened was the character Roux um, he's attempting a soul searching journey, and he wants to
Mm.
do better with his life. He knew he made some interesting decisions that didn't serve him, and so he's trying to get himself together. And he's really big into manifesting and like asking the universe for things, and it shows up faster than he can handle.
Ooh, child, talk about that.
Yeah,
You better
you
be
gotta
careful
be
what you wish
specific.
for.
Yes, and so the stuff shows up, and so and I call it Ruth's prayers, player's prayer, like Lloyd's song.
Mm-hmm.
So in this manifestation in his speech, he's asking the universe and spirit to rid of all bullshit and things that no longer serve him.
Ooh, you might lose some
And
friends doing that.
immediately things start popping up. And
Oof.
so he wanted to get on this journey because he was addicted to sex. And that spiraled after a breakup. And so he went down that road and lost a lot of himself, but also he gained a lot of clarity.
So how do you go from doing that's first of all, that's a lot to do during a talent show. This man was like, I just wanted you to sing a song, maybe. I'm gonna take you on a soul searching journey through
Well,
manifestation.
it
He's
was
like,
12
damn, Donnie.
minutes. It was only 12 minutes.
12 minutes is significant for one man show
I
though.
know. I didn't know. Well,
That's significant.
so I had to be tricky because he hit me up 2 weeks before the performance. So
Are you
I
serious?
took a week debating if I was gonna actually do it or not, and then I
Just
ended
like
up
a Libra to spend half the time thinking about it.
half the time thinking
Jesus
about it,
Christ.
y'all. It was crazy.
Your Libra
So
is showing
it's
now.
showing big time. So I ended up like developing a couple of characters, and then the easiest way for me to do that was to record the voiceover and have them as phone
Mm.
calls. And so
Oh, that's
I
smart.
shifted my voice for the guy that he was fucking with, and then can we curse on this podcast?
Oh yeah, this is humanized. Anything human
Okay,
is
I don't
fine.
even know if I was already anyway. The guy he was like hooking up with and everything, and then his best friend, and so I was shifting the tone and the like cadence of my voice to play all three of them while I was performing live as Roux.
Again, this is a lot to do in a week.
It was crazy.
First of all, how did it go when you first did it, and how did it develop into a film?
It was amazing. Like I literally showed up there and I was so nervous, but when I did it, it was the people in the audience, their reactions, they were like, the energy was very much like give and take. And then
Hmm.
they were like reacting to the stuff I was saying. They thought it was funny
Isn't that a great
and
feeling?
dancing with me. I did Beyonce
Oh,
choreo, so it was like,
you did Beyonce choreo?
yeah.
Okay, we're gonna talk because we're doing a major event for Halloween. You guys, spoiler, I'm not gonna tell too much. We're doing a major event for Halloween,
Uh-huh.
and we need folks with dance experience
Okay.
because rehearsals start in September.
Oh my God.
That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be this Halloween. We taking it over.
We doing it.
Mark your calendar. So like put a pin in that. So you did a
Okay.
whole choreographed dance.
Just
Everybody loved
Diva
it.
from Homecoming. So getting to the
I
money. I
love
did
how
that.
you said like that's still you're downplaying a lot. So in a week you did a one man show with voiceovers and the Beyonce
And
choreograph.
the Beyonce choreo. And then I saw the reactions. And so I was like, okay, this happened like May 2019. And so I went home. I was on a high from that. And I was like, I got to do this again. Like, I love this.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured out how to get a small black box theater. And I bargained with the Skiptown Playhouse. I was like, can I pay half now and half whenever I get the ticket sales? And they pay me like 5 days after, even, you know how Eventbrite works.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that whole thing and sold tickets, similar to what I'm doing now with the film, but I was able to get people in. I got some organizations to give away like safer sex kits
Oh,
and
you're
just
a hustler.
yeah. And then I was hungry. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's not letting me rest. And that was not even, that didn't scratch the surface of what getting to the film did to me because I could not sleep unless I put that in motion.
Donnie, production is expensive.
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with this world, you'll be like, Blue, why don't you do 3 episodes a week? And my thing is, oh, who's gonna pay for that?
Yeah.
Studio time, cameras, our producers, what's up, Harrison? Like everything costs money, right? So
Yeah.
like, how did you get the resources to even do all this?
I had to be smart. I mean, like I said, like I
Spoken like
listen
a
and
hustler.
flow. Like you had to. So I went from the talent show
Uh-huh.
to hustling, doing a little background, teaching a fitness class here, getting the money together, paying what I could to get the theater, selling the tickets. That I didn't have enough money to get a videographer to record it, but I had enough to get a photographer to document it because I know that if you
Nice.
don't have pictures, it didn't happen.
Especially in Los Angeles. Yep.
Yeah. So I got the photographer and he came and took pictures. He sent me all the photos. They looked great. And I put together a pitch deck. And I sat with this pitch deck. I sent it to people. Some people ignored it. Some people said not right now and all this stuff, but I still had it. So, like I was telling you earlier, with just being open to experiencing
Mm-hmm.
encounters, no matter what they were, platonic, romantic, just not being such a hermit, but saying, like, okay, yes. So I had a friend who we were friends via social media. We never actually hung out, but every time he would come to the city, he would want to hang out and, like, you're super cool. Like,
Sometimes your social media friends are actually more better
yeah.
friends than your real life
And
ones.
we met at a conference in person once, but it was very short. It was
Right.
very short because he had put the conference together, and so he was in
Oh,
and
so
out.
he was busy. He was working.
Yeah. So we ended up meeting. This was at the tail end of me working for a public health organization. And so this is the way I think. I'm thinking, okay, these organizations have funds and the county funds them, CDC funds. They're getting funding to produce programming or all these different things and especially health education. My
Mm-hmm.
film is health education but entertainment, and it's a very unique way to
We call that
raise
edutainment.
awareness. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of edutainment,
I
by the
like
way.
edutainment too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's my thing because I got there. I was in all these places, working in places where I wasn't supposed to work, but I was supposed to work there to collect data and to understand the realness of what it is, and to also see the other side of what our community is seeking from these places, what they're supposed to do for us, and not
Yeah.
really doing it. And I was like, okay, I'm rattling the cage, y'all not listening to me, but I'm a storyteller, and so I'm gonna say what I need to say through my art. And so I put the pitch deck together, or we were meeting, and he was like, "Well, what are you working on now?" And I was like, "I'm about to leave this job, blah blah blah. I got my skincare line and all this stuff, and I'm about to make my show. Like it was gonna be a full on
Oh
play."
yes. By the way, guys, Donnie also has a skincare line. Can you shut that out real quick?
Yes, it's Delicue Skin. I'm wearing Delicue right now.
Spell it for everybody who is listening and can't read your beautiful
So it's in
goldenrod shirt.
it's in French. It's D, the E with the accent, Liceeux.
I love that.
Delicue. Mm-hmm.
You're so bougie though.
Thank
The beauty about you sharing this story is that right now there's someone who, you know how the great migration, the great resignation happened
you. Mm-hmm.
during the pandemic. Record numbers of people quit their jobs.
Yeah.
In the same way, like, you know what? F this. If the world's gonna end, you're not gonna catch me slipping here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of people who listen to the show who are feeling stuck and looking for a way to get out of their rut,
Mm-hmm.
and they're hearing themselves in your story and saying, maybe I could just be hungry enough for it and run
Mm-hmm.
towards it. Do you mind me asking how old are you right now?
I'm 30.
So do you see, like, there are folks who think that once you hit 30 it's over. Like
No.
if you haven't made it by 30,
No. I don't believe that
I
at
hate
all. I
when I
don't
see people
subscribe.
say something, I'm having a quarter life crisis. I'm like, quarter
Mm-mm.
life? You just started living.
No, with the moment I saw you on my 30th birthday, we were at DJ Behan's block party.
That's hilarious. So I see you everywhere.
Yeah, and I was,
Oh,
and
I did. I remember the hug I gave. I was like, it's
yeah,
Donnie.
yeah, and I didn't even see. I was talking to Takara, and I was like, "Well, you were like,
Mhm.
you just gonna stand here and not say hi?" I was like, "Blue, I didn't even see you," but I was like in that space, and the moment I let it leave my mouth that I had turned 30, I was like, "It's my birthday," and someone was like, "How old are you?" And I hadn't said it yet,
Oop.
and I was like, "I'm 30," and it was like, you know how That's So Raven, like she has that like thing
Yeah.
that happened to me, and I was overcome with the most graceful, beautiful feeling that I couldn't even put into where I tried to put into an
Oh, you were
Instagram caption.
happy. It was a
I
happy.
was
It was a okay. Because some people say
yes,
I'm 30 and then they start crying on the inside.
because
Like,
I felt like my 20 the first time I had fallen into deep infatuation was at 19. And so I felt like
mm,
my 20s was a decade of like trial and error with love.
yeah.
And I had gained so much like callous from that like the second half of my 20s was more so for personal development and self-love, that the moment I said I was 30, I felt like all of that.
You survived it
Yeah.
all. I feel like social media is giving y'all a cheat sheet. Y'all talking about stuff that most people in my age bracket didn't get to till like our mid 30s. Y'all are so ahead of the game
Mhm.
because social media allows you to talk to folks of all ages
Mhm.
and learn from them and like cut out steps that you don't want to do. You know what I mean? Like I feel like because I was from the generation that it's called the what do we call the Zennials?
Mhm.
We're half millennial, half Gen X. We had to learn everything the hard way, and then social media came out, and then we told y'all.
Yeah.
But it's interesting seeing people who are 5 to 10 years younger than me be like, "Oh, honey, let's skip that part.
Yeah.
I saw what y'all did. That's not tea. That's not it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get me some help now." Like even the therapy,
Yeah.
the manifestation, the self love. I
All
didn't
of
have
that.
none of that conversation until I was in my mid 30s.
No. I started so young. So I
You were
grew
a
up really
baby up here
fast.
being a baby Zen.
I grew up really fast. I was like
Yeah,
even in high school, I felt everyone felt like I was like some guru or something.
you were
Like,
like a little baby Buddha.
yes, because I would just float around, especially in college. I felt like they treated me so well in college. Everyone just loved me. Like I would go to a house party full of people. As soon as I opened the door, it seemed like the DJ stopped the music and everyone yelled my name. I'm
Let me
not even
find. So
lying.
I'm not the only one yelling. Oh, it's Donnie.
It was crazy.
I thought I was
Imagine
special.
that times like hundreds of people. But I grew
This
up
subtle flex. He's like, "Oh, girl,
Ellie.
you thought you were the only one responding
No,
to
Blue.
this."
No. So
It's okay to flex that you have goldenrod energy.
I've known that like I had very beautiful energy since I was
You
really,
know
really young.
what? It's the confidence for me. He's like, it's just, it's pretty on the inside too.
You have to be that I I mean, I do this a lot, but I'll wake up and I'll like every morning I'm stirring into my coffee like everything that I'm grateful for. And I don't sit there and be like, I'm grateful, I'm so beautiful, blah blah blah. Like no, I'm like stirring in like gratitude for like radiance
Yeah.
and vibrance and potency and virility and vitality and strength and energy and protection every single morning. So it feels good that it has stayed with me since I was younger, but I've always known since I was a little kid. It was just like growing up gay, black, and in the hood. I grew up in
Oh,
the
child.
jungles. So it's like
Your
you don't get
survival.
to
Right.
You don't get to beam. But when I was younger, everyone that was coming up or growing up, like, they protected me in a sense because we were all in the same neighborhood and a lot of
But there was a
family.
purity there too, right? Like I was
Mhm.
talking to a previous guest about how I found out recently that I'm neurodivergent, which means I don't, even though my IQ is very high, my ability to pick up nonverbal cues, especially
Mhm.
when they're dastardly and evil, is
Mhm.
very low. So
Mhm.
I'm a smart girl, but socially, if somebody's out to harm me, my brain just doesn't fully understand a nonverbal cue. But
Mhm.
my whole life, I've had friends who've always been there to protect me. It's
Mhm.
almost like when people see that you're pure in some way, and
Mhm.
it's weird to use that word as an adult, right? Like
Yeah.
having a being an adult with a pure streak is a very weird space to
That's
be
their
in.
purity in there too.
Yeah, because you
Every morning.
feel wise, but you also feel like all this icky
Innocent.
shit, like it's just not you. It's like a childlike innocence
Mhm.
that maintains in us, right? And I feel like when folks see that and they really mean you well, they instinctively want to protect it.
Every single time. You'd be surprised how many guys that, like, I'm telling you, I thought, like, are y'all having a conversation with each other? Because they would all be like, I don't know what it is about you, but I just feel like I want to take care of you. Like, I feel like I
Right.
just want to protect you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
when a guy was trying, back then, especially when I was younger, I was so sassy. Like, it was like
Oh,
they
I
had
can
to like match
imagine.
the thing. So I'm like,
Yeah,
what
if
you
you
got
had
to
never
take care of
heard,
myself?
I can imagine you cussing somebody out.
Yeah.
Excuse me. First of all, them shoes told me that you need to mind your business.
No,
Like,
it's a
yeah.
full on read. It's a full
So
on
you really
read.
are Black Boy Joy, right? Because I think
Mhm.
it's performative joy.
Mhm.
And the reason why I wanted to call this episode Black Boy Joy is because I feel like the only time we see men, particularly black men, allowed to be happy is when they are like being aggressive
Mhm.
or when they are being smug and messy.
Mm.
And I'm not judging either because I
Mhm.
mean, we need the full spectrum to have a lived
We're
experience,
human.
right? But we don't get to see black men just be joyous without conquering anybody else.
Mhm.
You have like self-contained black boy joy. And I think
Thank
that
you.
variety in particular is not, we don't shed a light on that very often.
Mhm.
And so I would assume this makes you a good friend, which is
Yeah.
why for the hot topics, we were supposed to do hot topics at the beginning, but I started looking into your eyes and you were smiling all hard and I went straight into the interview. We're gonna do some quick hot
We was
topics.
talking like 10 minutes
Yeah,
before trying not to talk to each other.
we were. The thing,
Mhm.
the hardest part about podding is that when they're doing the setup, and I'm trying not to pod
Yeah.
before the cameras start rolling. But we were doing I was doing some research, and one of the things that brought me joy, since this is a Black Boy Joy episode,
Mhm.
have you seen Carisha Please?
I have.
Child, I
First
know it's a
episode.
mess, but
I love her.
it's like a big bowl of mac and cheese.
I love her. I love her.
So for those who don't know, Carisha Please is the new podcast from Carisha, aka
Yes.
Young Miami,
Love how
from the
she talks.
City Girls, and she had her sugar daddy,
Mm.
Sean Love P Diddy
I
Combs,
love him
as
too.
her first guest. So much mess. And the part that went viral, not surprisingly, was because I watched it I just happened to be online exactly when it came out.
Really?
So I was watching it within like 10 minutes of it rolling out.
Okay.
And so I immediately knew what the viral moment was going to be, and I was right.
Mm.
When he was like, wait, we go together?
Mm.
And she's like, yeah, real bad. We go together
Mhm.
real bad.
Mhm.
And there's something about, you're like, oh, honey, I can see that this is meant to be, and I'll let you like figure it out.
Mhm.
As an empath, which I'm assuming you are, and as somebody who's very spiritually aligned, sometimes when you're dating, courting, or even having shared experience with somebody,
Mhm.
you can tell that they are meant to be in your orb and they
Yeah.
can't. And when I'm in that position, I'm always like, oh, honey, I'm gonna wait for you to
Yeah.
come at me when you realize what this is. Do you ever have the reason why I ask the questions is have you ever had a moment where you've known that somebody was meant to be a significant part of your life, but they didn't, and you had to like sit on your hands and not ruin it, or do you just tell them like, no, we go together real bad? Like, how do you? You're in a Carisha, tap into her. What do you do when you know before they know?
My God. You know, it's interesting because I always feel like it's the other way. Like, there's a lot of people like thinking they know that I'm supposed to be in their life. I don't feel it at
Oh, so
all.
you're the Diddy in the situation. I
I wouldn't
thought you
say
were
I'm
the
the Diddy. I'm
Carisha.
more like the Carisha, but it's like, no. Okay, so with, let me see, because I can't think of any time where like I knew it and someone else didn't.
Oh, so what Donnie's telling us,
Actually,
he's
yes.
usually last.
Yes. No, the first guy when I was in college, I saw him at a Pride in San Francisco.
For somebody who doesn't do Pride, you being at Pride in San Francisco is very Pride.
I'm gay.
I
And
mean,
it
but
was that was my first Pride.
that's very Pride though.
That was my first Pride. And it was a lot, but I was at the hip hop stage like the whole
Oh, okay.
entire time.
You were with the Black Gays. Okay,
Yeah, you
go
gotta be. But this was
ahead. He was like, "Oh, honey, you see, it came out."
Gotta be. Because it's like it's a different vibe.
It
Like
really
it is.
is.
I mean, no one treats us like us,
Yeah, that's
especially
true.
in those spaces.
It's but people don't realize how much racism
Mm-hmm.
exists in the gay community,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in the male gay community.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing that's very interesting to me, right? I feel like a straight white man who has grown up someplace where he wasn't around a lot of people of color,
Mm-hmm.
if he has Wi-Fi and he's a decent human, he's gonna recognize, oh snap, there's a whole like world out there that I don't know about, and now that woke culture is coming out,
Yeah.
I got some learning to do, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like white straight men who are good natured but ignorant are receptive because they're like, oh, I'm at the top of the food chain. Clearly, I gotta learn what's happening everywhere else.
Yeah.
Gay white men do not have that humility a lot of times
Mm.
because they think that their gayness means that they know all there is to know about being a marginalized group. They
Mm-hmm.
think them being liberal means that they know all there is to know about being woke. And so they're
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes less receptive to acknowledging their own biases because they assume that they are part of the oppressed as well.
Yeah.
Not acknowledging that they can be the oppressor.
Often, especially in the pockets in which we all dwell, it's like,
Child.
I mean, I don't that I don't put myself beneath anyone,
The society's
especially in the
hierarchy,
community.
but in real life, we know
Yeah,
that we're equal.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because even in society's hierarchy and like the way that the systems and stuff are set up, like I was saying, I like rattle the cage. Like I challenge a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only a certain level of humility you can have with that. Like you can't just be meek. You could be humble,
Yeah.
but you can't be meek because then you get ran over. But that's a whole nother
But
conversation that
but
will
the
take us some
disruption
time and
does
like
cause change. A lot of people were like,
yeah.
"Why couldn't the protesters be more polite?" I'm like, that wouldn't be a protest.
Yeah,
It'd
it's
be a demonstration.
interesting. Very interesting. But in
But
those
but
spaces,
yes,
yeah.
but the thing about gay white men is like, how do you navigate those spaces when? Because here's the thing, and no offense, you're so lovely, you're
Mhm.
exactly who they want to be a token.
Mhm. Mhm.
All
And
shiny and exfoliated and fit. You know what they always say, like with no femmes, no fats, no Asians. You know how they have those problematic things that gay men
yeah.
say. Like you'd be a great black token. They would want to
Yeah.
bring you to dinner like Sidney Poitier. So how do you
Yeah.
navigate the fact that you look like a token but you act like a disruptor?
It's when the chances or the opportunities are present themselves, and most of the times they're earned.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look at the token black gays in that space, and I don't relate to that. Like because
Mm.
where I come from, I'm from
Yeah.
South Central Los Angeles. I grew up in the jungle.
Represent,
I'm
okay? He
not.
is from here.
Yeah, born and raised.
And I can't
True son of
imagine being
Inglewood.
gay black boy in South Central.
Yeah, it was interesting,
Whew,
but
I just got a shiver just thinking about that, like
yeah,
literally.
but like all of us have a code, and then when you have respect for yourself, the community respects you.
That's true.
And so, you can't go from that to West Hollywood and then pretend to be something
Be
else.
at the Abbey acting brand new.
But when I couldn't be at the Abbey when I first started coming out. It was just like they looked at me like I wasn't supposed to be there and like all
Yeah.
this stuff. But it was just like, okay. But then also it wasn't my vibe. It was like you explained like that thing. It's not.
I'm always looking for an excuse to show you guys that I can make noises with my mouth.
Yeah.
You know what's so crazy though is that like this is the Pride Month, the last Pride Month episode that we're doing. But I feel like a lot of the things that we're talking about are just like universal.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what it's like to be a token of some sort. We all know what it's like to have to figure out that balance between loving your solitude but not being a slave to it.
Yeah.
Because that's the part that here's the thing. I have a lot of male friends around me because number one, I just see people as people, and a lot of men are not used to not being seen as men.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of times, there's this gender wars thing that I always talk about that I hate on social media, like black men versus black women.
Yeah.
I see people as people just because of the work that I do. And so I love having black men around me in particular because it reminds me not to believe what I'm reading on social media.
Absolutely. It makes me so sad when I see stuff like that.
When I have men around me who don't have women around them, I'm like, no, you need women around you to remind you that social media is lying to you.
Yeah.
We don't all suck. We don't all hate you.
Yeah.
And so, like, how do you stop yourself from, how do I say this nicely? What I was going to say is I have men around me because I want a husband and
Yeah.
I don't want to lose the ability to talk to men, right?
Uh-huh.
But when you are a man yourself, but you're self-contained, do you ever get concerned that because you're so good at being alone, that when it's time to re-engage, you'll be stuck in your ways? Because I intentionally
Mm-hmm.
bake male relationships into my life so that I'm not stuck in my ways when I find my partner. Do you ever have concerns about that, or do you have a village around you that keeps you supple as well?
I have a village around me that keeps me supple, but I am open to, especially currently, I'm open to learning. Like if I do meet someone and it's like it's worth it. Like you said, like you
Mm-hmm.
have to be sweeter than my solitude. But
Ciao.
I'm not like my solitude is my way or the highway. Like if if I meet someone and they're a dope vibe, or I feel like, oh, our souls like needed
This
this.
makes sense.
Yeah, then I'm like, all right, cool. So like how can I accommodate? Because even when I was in a relationship before, I was so I felt like I was like in this just very hippie flower child free
Was
flowing.
Donnie? This is Donnie. You just described yourself at this very. He's like, I was a hippy dippy
But
goldenrod king.
I allowed
Still,
myself to be open to that because I felt like it was worth it at the time. And so when I met him and we ended up connecting, I don't feel like I would be stuck or scared to like be by myself, but
I'm
I'm
gonna
also
ask you
okay.
a controversial but brave question. Libras, you guys are good at saying that stuff in these forums. You guys are lovely.
Mhm.
But what I've learned from being engaged to one of y'all and dating several of y'all and friending many of y'all is the ego is still the ego.
Yeah.
And sometimes someone can say all that stuff,
Mhm.
but then when they feel like they've been blindsided by critique that they didn't see coming,
Yeah.
it's easy to be defensive.
Yeah.
And I have a PTSD around pleasant people
Mhm.
who I think can take feedback. I'm like, oh, Donnie's so lovely. I could tell him. And next thing I know, you can suck my dick,
Oh
bitch. Like
my
it
god.
gets really. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I thought
No.
you were open. No, y'all say that, but I've had several people come on the show, be like, yes, it's all love. I want to hear the feedback. And then the first time I'm like, oh shit, this is
Yeah.
scary. Are you sure? Like, have you ever had? Let's talk about ego, right? Because I don't want this
Mhm.
episode to be us pretending we're perfect.
Yeah, no.
How have you dealt with your ego in those moments where you do find yourself about to get defensive because you thought you had it figured out? I always quote this meme that says, "I thought I was sane until I got mad, and realized the whole time I was still crazy."
Mhm.
Right? It's easy to be sane when you're not mad.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a moment where you're like, "Ooh, my ego. Let me check
Yeah.
my defensiveness."
Yeah. And I think that came from when I was being too judgmental of, I would say, family. It wasn't like a romantic
Ooh,
thing.
that's a good place because y'all be judging.
Yeah.
Y'all, if you ever seen the Kardashians, Kim
Oh
Kardashian and
yeah.
typical Libra, she'll be lovely to everybody else, but
Yeah.
talk about the other two like a dog.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna talk about anyone like a dog. I just want
No, in
I
her
want
mind, it was critique.
oh
You know how
yeah.
y'all do.
Well,
I'm
see,
just
but it's
giving you
more so like,
constructive criticism.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. Because it would be like, no, I just want you to do better. But I would get so angry, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I don't need to be
That's
angry.
called
So I
judgment.
had to, yeah. So I had to like that mirror will show me my ego, and it hurt a lot. Like it hurt more.
Really?
So yes, because I felt like it got me out of character, and I was like,
Mm.
I'm only getting out of character because this is affecting my ego. Because I want something different for you.
Because you were attached to what you thought that you were entitled to bring to them, and you're almost like, how dare you not want this beautiful gift?
Yeah. Or
But
no, how dare you abuse it?
yeah, but here's the thing: there's a consent thing that happens too, right?
Hmm.
Because if you have insight, they have the consent to receive
Yeah.
it. Not everybody needs to hear what you have to say at all times.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing when you are a pure-hearted person.
Yeah.
That's how the ego gets you, though.
Yeah.
Anybody who's listening to this right now who says, "Oh my God, Donnie's so lovely. I want to have a marigold Donnie surprise like Blue does, and he's so zen." Even the most zen person,
Mhm.
when they get too, I don't want to say self-righteous, but when they feel too good about, like, oh yeah, I'm really good now. I'm levitating when I meditate.
Gosh.
You still have to learn to mind your business. That's the hardest part.
That because I'm still an Aries moon and my
Ooh, that's what the
Venus
crazy.
is in Leo.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, so minding your business is hard because you
It
be like,
is.
but I know what's best for all of
Cuz
us.
I
Why is
felt like
everybody
yeah,
mad?
cuz like I know what's best for all of us and like what you're doing is affecting all of us and it's disrupting harmony, so it's messing with my Libraness and like it's a
Mm-hmm.
whole thing, but I think if I were to look at that not just from a family perspective but in romantic relationships, there was a time with the person that I was in a relationship with. I remember vividly him saying something like, I helped make you better too. And at the
Mm.
time,
Ooh, he was ready for you.
at
He's
the
like, honey, it
time,
goes both ways.
yeah, and at the time, I was so, from the circumstance and the situation, I felt like I was already too vulnerable. I could not admit that he had any contribution to me
Mm-hmm.
leveling up or advancing.
Here's the thing that I've noticed is when and this happened to me in my mid-30s, but you're so far ahead of the game, you probably get there in 2 weeks. These kids are so far. I'm like, damn, y'all learn everything early. I had to recognize that there are some people who, in their world, they hear their narrative, right? So they're like, oh, I did these 4 nice things for this person. They should be grateful. I feel like there should be no feedback because I'm lovely.
Yeah.
Then the person says, pan out, bruh. Pan
Yeah.
out. Because while you were doing those 4 things, I did 12 things that I didn't even bring up as well. So
Yeah.
you're aggrandizing your 4, not realizing that I had 8 above you. And also there were moments where you failed me regardless of the 4 nice things that you did.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, it's hard for them to recognize 2 truths can coexist. You can be a good person
Yeah.
and still fail someone.
Yeah.
You can be a good person and still have an ego.
Yeah.
You can be a good person and still be defensive and not good at taking the feedback.
Yeah.
And whenever I give somebody feedback and they say, well, I did these 3 things for you, this is where me being neurodivergent, because we're very literal. Because my first thought is that's completely fucking irrelevant.
Yeah.
You doing nice things for me is completely fucking irrelevant to me telling you my lived experience and how I was impacted right now from dealing with you.
Yeah.
And the first thing we want to do is tit for tat. Let me plot my list
Yeah.
of all the ways that I'm lovely. And it's like, that's ego, right? The ego
Yeah.
wants to pull out a list. Let me explain to you why you got me fucked up, why I'm a good person. Again, why I levitate when I meditate. Y'all, I'm Donnie. You don't see how I walk into the room, hundreds of people be clapping.
Yo,
What's wrong with you?
That was just so interesting to me.
But do you see how it's hard? And the reason why I'm pulling this out, and I love that you trust me enough to have this moment with you,
Yeah.
is because again, there are people who give themselves good guy and bad guy narratives, and I'm the
Yeah.
good guy and I'm the victim, and that's the bad guy. And I'm telling people all the time, the show's called Humanized because
Yeah.
even your biggest heartache, even the person who gave you your biggest heartache,
Mhm.
is still a human being.
You know what, Blue? That I think so my background's in sociology and psych. And
Oh, so you this is why I feel comfortable having this conversation with
yeah,
you.
because you pay attention to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came to relationships, specifically the one that impacted me the most, I was aware of all of the things that had happened, and I had done some work on myself and like all of my own traumas and the ways that I had
Speak
to
on
grow
it.
up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was interesting because I saw his humanity. I see everybody's humanity, but I saw his humanity and it got me in a lot of trouble within self. And so I had to like understand like, all right, well, I love you, but I love me more.
That's the part too, because I this is where I'm gonna self drag because I feel like for somebody who was relating to you at the beginning half, they're gonna be like, "Why is she reading us? We're lovely." I had to realize that a lot of times that showing too much grace is just as bad as showing no grace, right? So I went from the person who was judgmental as well to giving way too much grace because I was letting the humanity and me seeing their heart and their potential and their inner child that's crying be an excuse for a grown ass man doing fuck shit, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's also the other side of the spectrum. It's like sometimes you can give too much grace. And I remember I met the Scorpio. Shout out to all the low vibrational folks who can teach people like me and Donnie because they have a purpose. There's no light without dark.
No, literally. And
shout out to all the low vibrational folks, particularly the Scorpios and the Aquarius who don't trust none of us. They can't stand none of us.
I love both of them.
They think Earth is ghetto and why are we here?
I love Scorpios and Aquarius.
Right, because and I like them too because they remind me of the dark side of me that I don't feed enough. I feel like I feed the light so much that the darkness, like I need the shadow to give me contrast.
Yeah.
And she was just like, Blue, and I'm about to swear. She was like, Blue, you be out trying to outnoble these niggas. You stay trying to outnoble somebody when you really should be giving them your ass to kiss. Like sometimes being the bigger person, sometimes turning the other cheek. Bitch, you ran out of cheeks. Sometimes the lesson is you saying kiss my ass. And I was like, well, that don't feel very evolved. Like I was looking at her like, you're so mean.
Yeah.
But then 5 years later, I was like, I owe that girl an apology because she's right. There was a lot of people who, even on my worst moment, they were banking on my grace. They were like, yeah, I pissed Blue off and I fucked her over, but I know she's not going to do nothing dirty because she's Buddhist and she be chanting and shit.
Yeah.
And people were starting to bank on my grace as a way to abuse me.
Yeah.
How do you deal when you realize that they got you fucked up because you got you fucked up? Ooh, like questions. Donnie's like, oh.
Listen, yeah, I love it though because it gets you to think about like in the ways in which you have made some shit happen. And like I wouldn't have anything that I have now. I would not be the type of person that I am now if I didn't put a stop to all that grace I had because it was abusive. And like
Yeah.
it, you could tell me all this stuff like blah blah blah, pack your stuff and get out my house, move,
Oop.
blah blah
If
blah.
y'all knew the way Donnie was looking at me, I felt like I need to pack my shit and leave
Yeah,
the studio. That was a lot of eye contact, Donnie.
but it's real.
Yeah, that's
And then
true.
you could keep going back, but then when you finally pack and they think you're gonna be there when they get back and the place is empty, your life changes.
It really does because you're taking your power back.
Hmm.
Would you call yourself sensitive?
I'm extremely sensitive.
So here's the thing that I realized is that like super sensitive people, when they hurt, it's a deep, deep heartache.
Hmm.
And then they have the choice to be a victim or to be a survivor.
Oh my God.
And when they choose survival, because they've gone to the depths of the sea of despair,
Yeah.
their joy tastes richer.
Oh
Like
my
you mentioned
goodness.
earlier that you fast.
Hmm.
When I fast, the first bite after a fast is fucking orgasmic.
Hmm.
And so I would say that your capacity for joy is tied to your capacity for despair,
Hmm.
which is probably why you come off so joyous.
Yeah. Well, yes, Blue, and because it's like
Donnie's like, yes, bitch, you want
no, because it's like you're making so much sense. It's
Yeah.
like I mean, and you're big into astrology too. Like you get it. Like my
Yeah.
Pluto's in Scorpio as well as my first house in
Child, you
ascendant.
feel all the things.
So
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
my job is to transmute darkness.
Yeah.
Like it's like I'm yeah, my joy and everything is gonna feel that much better because I know what it's like to hurt and like some of the
Hmm.
worst things. And
Deep betrayals and all types of stuff.
yes, but also like you get to use that as fuel for whatever it is that
Hmm.
you're meant to do here. And for me, it's storytelling. And so when someone sees the things that I produce or the things that I create or listen to the stories that I tell, then they'll be able to, if it applies or if they're able to resonate, if they didn't think that it was possible to get out of certain situations or heal or recover from certain things, then,
Hmm.
they'll be like, okay, like I
That's
got
why they were
something
dancing
to
in the
do.
aisles while you were doing the Get Money dance from Beyonce. They're like, "Ooh, he happy, happy." You know what's so crazy? Like when my aunt passed away, it
Mm,
was the greatest steps of despair, and it was like my first time dealing with death in that kind of way because she raised me like a mom. Losing a parent is a
mm,
very intimate kind of pain.
mm-hmm.
Um, but I realized that my ability to feel joy is heightened because I've hit that pain point. And so there's some folks who need to realize that they're like, oh, I'm depressed and Donnie and Blue are happy and kikiing. And they don't
Yeah.
realize that there's a direct line from us to them.
Yeah.
Like there's a direct line from the heartbroken, depressed person
Yeah.
who is in a like a burrito of a blanket right now, listening in the headphones, doesn't realize that we were there.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
And I think people have to be able to see it unless they come into it with an innate knowing that everything's gonna be okay. They have to be able to see an example. And
Yeah.
like I was telling you earlier, like I grew up really fast, like really fast. I was 14 when my mom passed away.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it was an accident. And so, no
Ugh.
one, we knew in an interesting way, and you would understand this when I say this, but she prepared me for things like this, and I it made me very anxious because it was like, okay, at what point though? And so, the last thing that we did was fill out a job application, and I was running back and forth between my house and the apartment manager. She was the manager of the place that I worked, and we were filling it out, and she was getting ready to go out, and so that was our last encounter. I was like, call me before you leave, and she was like,
Aw.
okay. And then when I got back, she forgot, and so I called her and I was like, you forgot to call me because I was so nervous that I wouldn't get the chance to give a proper kiss goodbye if anything were to ever happen. And that was the day.
Yeah.
But from that point,
Well, how did that make you feel, by the way? That's a huge thing to go through so young.
it, it was like, I was grateful that I was at least aware that something was happening.
Yeah.
But it was like nothing that I ever felt in my life. And
Yeah.
I used to, when I was going through like a very bad relationship, I did not equate it to that, but I was like, this feels like that type of pain. Like it hurt really, really bad. But she was, even when she was present in physical form and as a human, she was so beautiful. Like inside and out. She also didn't play, but she was like very angelic, and like
Mm-hmm.
everyone loved her. She always did random things. And so I remember when I was little, I was telling someone I used to write long stories on my Instagram and like in my Facebook status, just sharing stories about stuff. And I remember one time she had picked up this old lady driving, and she would always say that like God told me to stop and
She was intuitive. You get it
pull.
from her.
Yeah. So I had asked her one time. I was really little, and I was like, "Mommy, what do angels do?" And she was like, "They do whatever God tells them to do." And so I was like, "Oh, okay." She's like, if he wants to hear music," and she was also like, she was very religious and things like that. Not extreme. Like she wasn't like a like
Yeah.
you need to do. She was just, she
She was
believed
very
in a higher,
spiritual. She,
yes.
yeah.
So she was like, if he wants to hear music, an angel will go play him music. And she gave all these examples. And so I would listen to her tell these people, like, God told me to stop and do this. God told me to stop and do that. And I was like, oh my God, my mom's an angel. And I thought that
Oh.
like, even I was little, but like, I thought that my whole life, I knew she was an angel on earth. And she knew her favorite thing. She had angels all around her house. You could ask anybody, gold and angels everywhere. Like, little angel things. She painted them black, and she just
And now
had
she's
them
like
everywhere.
literally your angel now.
hmm So I knew that when she passed, that like her transitioning was this universal protection that will follow me for the rest of my life.
That's the thing about death that's so bittersweet. It's like you mourn losing them in the physical realm, but now they get to be everywhere.
hmm
And there's something so beautiful and devastating simultaneously about that.
hmm
There's nothing in this world that has taught me more about life than death.
Yeah.
And I will say, for those who are like, what's the difference between being religious and spiritual? My favorite quote is, religion is for those who are scared of hell, and spirituality is for those of us who've already been there. No, seriously, we've survived it. It's like, well, I'm still here.
That is
No,
hilarious.
seriously, it's true though.
hmm
Like, when I became a Buddhist, it's so funny because I'm a witch by lineage, but I'm a Buddhist by choice. When I became a Buddhist, I thought it was gonna be all chanting because I saw that Tina Turner said that's how she left Ike. I was like, well, if we can get her from Ike, it can help me
hmm
with my depression. And the first thing they teach you in Buddhism is like, shit's gonna suck sometimes. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, this don't feel very Zen. They were like, no, being Zen is not about thinking good vibes only. It's about acknowledging all the vibes and the value that they hold and making peace with it.
hmm
And I was like, oh, that sounds less fun than what I thought. I thought they were gonna give
Yeah.
us cookies and like help us levitate. Like I didn't
No.
realize that, but I realized that when you make peace with the ugly, you get to enjoy the beautiful.
Yeah, because it tastes richer.
I'm telling you, the first bite after a fast, it could be a salty cracker. That should taste like sex.
Oh my God. And see, you know what? I think when I talk about fast, like I only fast from like, when I do fast, it's more so, okay, so I've done things like no coffee and stuff like that, but like those intense fasts when I'm like being creative are always sexual fasts. I have never food fasted. Like I've
Okay,
never
so
been
as
like
somebody
a
who's done both, yeah, the analogy holds. The first
yeah.
bite, like you just held my hand. Give me a second. I need a napkin.
Hold on.
You know what's so funny? I went on a sexual fast at the end of the year. So I decided to intentionally be celibate because I had a maintenance man,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized that he was just bad for my like knowing that if you just need to feel the semblance of touch,
Mm-hmm.
you can just make a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
It does something that stops your frequency from attracting real love because you're just like,
Mm.
oh, I don't have to be invested because if you get on my nerves, I can just send you home and call. Like, so I decided at the end of the end of last year that I was going to not sleep with anybody until it felt like somebody who made me feel emotionally safe and who enhanced my life.
Mm-hmm.
Did not realize what a tall order that would be in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's happened for me going on a sexual fast is that I've realized how many times I thought I wanted sex, but I actually just wanted affection.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't actually want the sex. I wanted the feeling of closeness that that was in the ecosystem of sex.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you know how they always say that if by the time you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated.
Yeah.
By the time I want sex,
Dang.
right?
You made me want to drink some water.
Right, I'm really wanting a sip right now. Donnie's like, losing the line.
No, I love this.
By the
I
time
could sit here
you
and talk to you all day.
child, if the producers were to kick us out, we would have like 5 minutes left. But by the time I know, right? The time always goes by
We don't need a part two.
We really do need a part 2. We're gonna
'Cause
reboot.
I feel like there were some things that we were supposed to go, and we ended up like going off into something else. Anyway.
We have an itinerary, and then we let the spirits tell us what
Okay.
they want us to talk about.
Okay.
By the time I want affection, by the time I think I'm really horny or really like craving like whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I really just want connection and intimacy.
Yeah.
And so I had to stop learning to not translate sex for intimacy because they're not interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a lot of intimacy and no sex. You can have a lot of sex and no intimacy.
You know what? That is so true.
Cause
Whenever I feel like like whenever I feel, and I have this thing where instead of, especially when I'm fasting, instead of like having sex, I'll wrestle. I like
Ooh,
wrestling.
that's hot.
Yeah. And
That's
I
actually a
have like
category on
neighbors.
Pornhub.
Yeah, it is.
Wrestle
Yeah.
porn is kind of hot. You ever see when they're fighting and like, oh no, my
Yeah. But
pants.
it's more so like because I have such a inside a very primal nature, like
That's
I
the
just need to
Aries in
have
you.
like a yeah, I have so much energy. And if I don't run or like work out or burn it off, I be like, okay, I am like too hot right now. I need to do
He's
something.
like, I need to fight somebody.
Yeah,
So if
but
you
like
see
not
Donnie, he
not
chest
fighting.
bumps you at the gym.
Nothing gonna chest bump nobody, but
I just need to
you know,
wrestle this
you
out.
could just arrange things like, get your neighbors or friends or whoever and be like, hey,
Oh,
you
that's
want to wrestle,
hot.
blah blah blah, and then like,
Donnie, you have like an 8 pack, and if you take off your shirt and ask somebody to wrestle you, that's called foreplay. Just need you to know that, friend.
is it just because I have an 8 pack?
No, but I'm saying
Oh,
you shirtless with your man teats out wrestling around. That looks like a porno.
yeah,
That
but
literally page 5 of
it
Pornhub.
saves me from having to take a long 2 hour uncrossing bath.
That's very true. It's so funny. Your moon is in Aries, you said,
Hmm.
and Aries is very fiery energy. And so when you're fasting sexually, you decide to wrestle because that
It
fire
helps
needs
me
to come
burn
out.
it or
My moon,
create.
my moon is in Virgo, which is an overthinker. So when I'm stressed, don't laugh. I've mentioned this before on the show. I watch massage porn. So I'm in the other
I wouldn't laugh
direction.
at that.
Uh, I do, cause you ever seen those porn like massage videos on Instagram
Uh huh.
where somebody's mama is getting rubbed down inappropriately for
And you just see
59.95?
just
Just one
ass
big old
moving.
just ass jiggling. First of all, could you date somebody who does that for a living? That's not even on the list, but I need to know because I could not.
It depends on if we were poly. Wait, date or in a relationship?
Look, exactly. You
If
know
we're
what?
poly in a relationship, if we're dating, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I just feel like even if I was poly and I have tried to be poly, we're gonna talk about this when you come back. You being for sale is my problem.
Oh my
The fact that somebody can hand
god.
your credit card and have you touch their cheeks, that's not poly anymore.
It's a skill.
Child, that's sex work. And as somebody who used to do sex work, I used to.
Is it sex work or
If you can pay my husband or my boyfriend to touch your booty,
if that's intimacy, is it intimacy work?
it's for pay. Somebody can hand the credit card and get
But
what I get.
intimacy ain't always sex.
I'm gonna just say
It
this.
just looks sexual.
I was engaged to an erotic male dancer, so I probably have some PTSD about people paying for stuff that I think should.
Look, I was a go-go dancer in college.
Were
It
you
was
in a
so much
relationship
fun.
though?
No.
Exactly. I was engaged, honey. I do think that if he's watching this, shout out to you. I think he was struggling with his sexuality. I think I
Oh.
was not the only bi or pan person in the situation. And that's interesting too, because I think because he was in the closet and wouldn't come, and I was open. I was like, honey, I'm pansexual. I
Oh
can't judge
my
you.
god.
He was like, no, no, I'm not gay. I was like, oh, okay.
That's interesting,
He's
Blue.
probably on a pride float right now.
All the girls that I had ever been with, especially the ones that have been my girlfriend, that end up becoming lesbians later.
See, the gays always
That was in
find
high
each
school.
other. The
We
gays,
gotta do, but were we gay? Because we were like
I don't know.
man and woman. I
We're
mean,
asking so many existential questions at the very end of the show. So this is, by the way, how
we were
people
hetero.
who were philosophical act, right? They don't even answer questions; they just ask them. The final question for the Black Boy
So
Joy
funny.
episode. This has been so fun.
It has. That's why I'm
We
sad
could have
it's
done a
ending.
whole other hour
Yeah,
about like the stuff that's actually on the
because we
itinerary.
didn't get to it.
In summation, you need to watch Roux Blues
Yes.
because if you are in the Los Angeles area, there's still like at the time of this dropping, like 48 hours left, 36 hours left for you to buy the tickets.
Yes.
What is there a URL they can go to? Should they just find
Yeah,
go to
you
your
could go to
Instagram?
rouxblues.com.
Spell that.
ROUXSBLUES.com.
One more
Rouxblues.com.
time for the folks who get in the back. So this
ROUXSBLUES.com.
episode's coming out on the 24th. The show's on the 26th. If you go, you'll see me and Jeff there.
Yes.
Big Jeff energy from the previous episode. Last question is, how do you find the most joy?
Mm.
This is the episode all about Black men embracing joy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find the most joy? Like, what brings you the most joy right now, currently? It gets to evolve in this current moment.
What brings me the most joy in this current moment?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the most joy just having like a tequila cocktail in the sun with my dog running around, and I don't have to worry or think about anything. It's just a moment to just like be one with the rays.
That is so beautiful.
No, for real.
Oh,
Cause I just see I be feeling like it it makes every day feel like a Saturday. You know, like on a
that's true.
weekend when you're
Yeah.
like you having like a day drink and stuff. And it's like, oh,
Mhm.
today's Saturday, it's already 6 o'clock, the sun about to go down, but I still got tomorrow. Like,
That's my favorite thing about being self-employed is that
yeah.
every day gets to be a Saturday. And tomorrow you're gonna come over for dinner.
Yes,
So
I will be
you
there.
and Jeff and a couple other folks are coming over for dinner. The fact again, people don't understand the show is people that I actually enjoy in real life. It's
Yeah.
not just content, even though everything is content these days. And I think that's what makes the difference because it feels like, oh, I get to talk to my friends and
Yeah.
have good conversation, and this is like my job. How cool is that?
And the last time we had a conversation this long was at Myra the day I met you at
I
Myra's.
know.
Yeah,
That's the
shout out
joke.
to
If you see me
Myra.
talking to somebody for too long, it's probably a Libra or a Gemini.
It was us. We was doing the whole thing.
Donnie, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Blue.
This hour went by so
It
quickly.
went by too fast.
It You have to come back. This is how
We'll
I
be
get
back.
people, right? I only give them an hour and then they have to come back to do another
And
episode.
she know I'm a Libra. I talk a lot.
I love Libras. They love me back, so that's why it works. For those of you who are supporting the show, please make sure you check out Donnie's page. Donnie, give them your URL on Instagram so they can stalk you and slide into your DMs.
Yes, it's at Donnie Hue. DonnieHue.
When they see how cute you are, you might get some DMs though.
I wouldn't mind.
Oop, he's open, right? He's surrendering.
Look.
As usual, I'm at Blue Centric. If you enjoy the show, just want to be a decent human, please give me a thumbs up, a rating, a 5-star review. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a play cousin. The episodes have been just getting so much traction lately, and I do very little promo. So thank y'all for making up for the fact that I don't have a big old team. But I love the show, and I love you for coming.
I
And you
love
are
you
now a friend
more.
of the show. You have to come back.
Thank you. I promise I'll come back.
Yay!
Yes.
Y'all heard it here first. Have a wonderful rest of your Pride Month, guys.
Happy
And
Pride.
happy Pride. And now we have to worry about July. Interesting. Bye, guys. July.